I do not promote the use of drugs, either legal or illegal. This video has been made for harm reduction purposes, to act as a safety guide for those who would be embarking on this journey regardless of my influence. Step 1. Get DMT. In the USA, Australia, the United Kingdom, and many other countries, it is a Schedule 1/A drug. However, in Canada, it is a Schedule 3 substance. DMT is produced endogenously all throughout nature, in both plants and animals alike. In some species of the acacia tree, for example, the DMT content can be as high as 1.6% of the dried weight of certain parts of the tree. Due to its illegal status, I cannot advise anyone to take DMT. But if you are going to do this anyway, you need to research ways on the DMT nexus so that you can do so safely. The DMT nexus has a plethora of safe methods for acquiring DMT from plant material. But again, I do have to warn you, if you go down this road, you will be entering illegal territory. So please, consider if this is really what you want to be doing. Step 2. Understand the risks. DMT can be smoked, snorted, orally ingested, or injected. For the sake of this video, we will only be covering the experience that is present when DMT is smoked. You cannot overdose from smoking DMT. The DMT blasts you out of your body, so you wouldn't be able to physically keep smoking to the point of overdose. I mean, you can't keep smoking something if you're not conscious. The main risk is having a complete mental breakdown. DMT can cause unwanted spiritual awakenings. Now, if you currently don't have a good grasp of reality or your life, this could easily cause you to spiral into the negative. I'm a firm believer that you get the experience you need, not the experience you want. But for some people, they just cannot handle what they are being shown. And for others, this is the experience that shapes the rest of their life in perhaps an incredibly positive and new way. Do not go half-heartedly into this experience. It's not something that you can easily forget or just shake off. Step 3. Choose your smoking method. DMT is notoriously difficult to smoke properly. It's also notoriously harsh and difficult to inhale. But if vaporized correctly and not burned, it's not very harsh at all, and it's even thought to be pleasant by some. Vaporizing without burning the spice can be difficult. It's for this reason that people have come up with some very unique smoking techniques. You can use a pipe or a bong. You will first put a layer of herb down, then sprinkle your DMT on top of the herb, then you put another layer of herb on top of that. Now when smoking, the key is to just burn and light the herb that's on top of the DMT, so that it heats up enough to vaporize the DMT beneath. Most of you know this as a crack or a meth pipe. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Just put your crystal into the bulb and heat up the glass. Many people who do not have success with the first two methods end up forking out about $100 to pick one of these up, and they are finally able to enjoy their spice. There are a lot of people who have recently been having a lot of success smoking their DMT out of a dab rig. First, you drill a hole in the bottom of a glass bottle. Next, all you need to do is get some very coarse steel wool to put in the neck of the bottle. Now, you do have to be careful, because there's a lot of steel wool that is sold with a coating on top of it. To get rid of this coating, there are a few techniques that you can find online. One of them is to just heat it up with a flame so that you burn all the coating off. And what else you really need to be careful for is that you do have the coarse steel wool. If you're using very thin steel wool, it will burn, and yeah, it would not be smart to be smoking steel wool. Commonly referred to as changa. This is a mix comprised of 25 to 50% DMT, and the rest of the percent is comprised of plant material. Often, a plant containing harmala alkaloids is used, such as capi leaf. Many people infuse their own blends, and they add more than one plant. Changa is a favorite among many. This is because the presence of the harmala alkaloids is very synergetic with the DMT. You also don't need to rush to get all the smoke in like with vaporized crystal. You can take your time and slowly enter hyperspace at your own pace. Also, you can easily smoke it out of a pipe, a bong, or you could even roll it into a joint. On the downside, you will need to do some research on the DMT nexus so you can learn how to properly prepare it yourself. Step 4. Choose your dose. In my opinion, there are 3 tiers to the DMT experience. Each tier can expand well beyond the effects listed here. Tier 1, the threshold experience. This can be reached at a dose of 5 to 15 milligrams. This dose is where all beginners need to start. This will give you a feel for what DMT is. You'll get visual distortions, colors can intensify, and you might start seeing patterns overlapping surfaces. You may hear a ringing in your ears, or the entire world can become blissfully quiet. You can expect this experience to end quickly. After 5 minutes, you should start to be coming back down, and after about 10 minutes, you might just have an afterglow effect. Even though most people still have control of their bodies at this dose, it is still best to always smoke sitting or laying down. Every experience can be totally different, and even at doses this low, it can still be enough to paralyze you and shoot you right through the tunnel. Tier 2. This is what I call entering the tunnel. It can feel like you are getting shot through a wormhole, dropped through a portal, or even like your entire body is being ripped apart. You might feel like you've lost your breath and you're just gasping for air. Very similar to the feeling when a roller coaster drops from that very first peak height and your stomach is just all the way up in your throat. This tier can be reached at a dose of 15 to 25 milligrams. Some people call this being in the waiting room. They say it's like being in the loading screen while your trip is waiting to load. The visual space is difficult to describe. If your eyes are open, it can look as though whatever you're staring at is breaking apart into an infinite sea of rotating fractals or rotating patterns, like kaleidoscope vision. With eyes closed, it's similar, but instead, your visual space will be made up of colorful rotating geometric shapes and patterns. Now, this can very well be where your trip ends. However, sometimes when you get to this space, you can break through with just sheer will alone. But often, if you don't go any further, it just means you didn't smoke enough. A lot of people make it to the tunnel and they just assume that they've broken through. This is because in this stage, your body will just be totally paralyzed. However, often you can still hear the outside world. It just might sound like it's really far away. For me, the tunnel, it's just not very much fun. I mean, the rotating shapes and geometric patterns, they can be pretty fun to watch, but there's no real insight to gain here. The real experience, it begins when you break through to the other side. Tier 3, the breakthrough experience. You can break through with a dose of 25 plus milligrams. If you have improper smoking technique, it could take you 50 or even more milligrams. However, if it is taking you 50 milligrams to break through, it's probably because you're burning more than half of your product. You either need to perfect your smoking technique or try a new method of vaporization. Terence McKenna often spoke of 3 big hits to break through. However, the truth is, you can break through with just 1 hit if you can get enough vapor in. The less hits, the better. People often refuse their last hit. This is because once they start entering the tunnel, reality is just moving so fast that they're convinced that they've had enough. But if you really want to break through, you always need to take that last hit. At this tier, you go straight through the tunnel. There is this very distinct carrier wave sound that can be heard. It can get louder and louder until it just shatters reality and you break through to the infinite. It can also feel like you just killed yourself. A common theme when people break through is they are convinced that they're dead. This makes sense because it would seem that the DMT molecule latches onto your consciousness and just rips it out of your body. Many people believe that when you break through on DMT, you are temporarily killing yourself in this realm. In the exact same way that things will happen when you literally do die. Only with the DMT breakthrough, you get to come back. DMT to many can feel like they've finally come home. It can have this very strange familiar vibe to it, kind of like you just know that you've been there before. It can feel more real than real. It can make you question if your everyday life is an illusion. DMT has been described as weirder than weird. Words just really can't describe the realm that you enter when you break through. Many people report entity contact with strange beings, sometimes insect-like, sometimes reptilian-like, sometimes elf or joker-like. Some people even report very religious experiences. They claim that they've met God. Step number 5, prepare for liftoff. Now that you've decided what dose you will be taking, you need to plan for your trip. Set and setting play a huge role here, as they do with every psychedelic experience. Now, the emotional state that you are currently in prior to smoking DMT can heavily influence what type of trip you're going to have. Feeling calm, relaxed, and excited can almost always lead to a positive trip. However, smoking DMT can be very nerve-wracking to many people. It's not the type of experience where you can just remind yourself that you're just tripping to help you calm down. Often people totally forget that they're on a drug. I mean, it often makes you face your death. And when this is happening, it feels totally real. So how do you get calm and relaxed for such an experience? There are some who say you cannot, but I disagree. Think about why you are smoking DMT. Consider what you truly want to get out of the experience. And remember, for this to be a good, positive journey, you need to agree ahead of time that you are going to totally surrender to it. People only ever have really bad trips on DMT when they fight letting go. Meditating or just calming your breathing down before going into the experience can actually work wonders for helping you to surrender. Smoking in a comfortable and familiar location can really help too. You need to feel really comfortable before you enter hyperspace. That being said, it's still possible to have an amazing experience smoking outside. Smoking beside a calm stream, in the woods, or on the beach are all fantastic spots. Just use some common sense and try to stay away from high places or smoking in the water. There's actually been one case of someone smoking DMT in their bathtub and drowning. Decide whether you want a trip sitter or not. A trip sitter isn't necessary considering DMT only lasts like 5 to 15 minutes, whereas most other psychedelics can last up to 12 hours. However, it can definitely help you feel more calm or relaxed letting go when you know that there's someone that you trust or love with you. Always, always, always smoke DMT sitting down or laying down. If you are smoking enough for a breakthrough experience, you will go unconscious. Step number 6, smoke DMT. Regardless of which smoking method you chose, you need to hold each hit of DMT into your lungs for at least 15 seconds so that it all absorbs. Try to go into this experience with no expectations. The fewer expectations you have going in, the better your experience will be. Just let whatever happens, happen. Be the observer to your experience. Go with the flow and try not to feed into your fear. Remember, at the end of the day, it only lasts 5 to 15 minutes. You'll be back way before you know it. However, if you do experience a full breakthrough, when you get back, it can feel as though you have been gone for much, much longer. Step 7, integrate your experience. A lot of people have a very difficult time integrating their DMT experiences. Many people say they had to smoke the spice on several occasions till they could finally just bring something back with them. The main reason people have a difficult time retaining the information they learned is because when you come out of a breakthrough experience, it can kind of feel like when you wake up from a dream. The experience can quickly fade over the course of a minute or two. Personally, an onlooker can always tell when I've had a great trip. You'll see me open my eyes and just start laughing uncontrollably, like a total maniac laugh. I'll keep laughing until I've actually forgotten what the hell I was laughing at. All that I'll know is that I just got the punchline to the most amazing joke that I've ever heard. Something to do with my reality, I think. If I had to tell you what substance I have personally learned the most from, I would tell you it was DMT. I've had conversations with a variety of entities, I've seen different worlds, I've even experienced life as being a totally different being. Was this all inside my head? Well, of course it was. This reality is inside my head, and I am inside this reality. It's kind of profound when you really think about it. Just remember, no matter what happens, it was just a drug experience. It wasn't real. This reality is what's really real. But wait, how would you know what real was without knowing what not real was? Can one exist without the other? And what does that even mean? Is anything really real? I mean, look at this wall. Is it actually solid? Or are the electrons that are circling the nuclei of the atoms just vibrating at such a rate that my hand isn't able to pass through it with a simple touch? And if the empty space between each electron is greater than the amount of solid space making up each molecule, then is my hand actually touching the wall? And when you're not looking, if each of the electrons that make up the atoms that make up the molecules that make up the wall are behaving like a wave function instead of a particle function, then does this wall even exist without an observer looking at it to give it definitive shape? What the fuck does real even mean? Thank you for watching, everybody. This video would not have been made possible without your continued support on Patreon. Thank you to all of our subscribers and our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to check out what Patreon is, click the link here and it will direct you to it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for weekly drug-related videos.